Hey everybody. So today is not really about VR or VR gaming. I'm using it for a presentation. I did something like this similarly before when talking about devs and how they can help make gaming more accessible for blind people. Recently, I had a family visit and I needed to fly, and I've flown before. I pack up my bag, my cane, and I go. I'm not going to mention the airline simply because I've never had a problem with this airline before. But it did bring about a complaint because I was treated very badly at the check-in counter for getting my boarding pass. And the way it came about is I was going home with an extra bag, and my sister came to help me because I had two bags that I needed to carry instead of just the one, and my cane needs one hand to guide myself, and I use the other one to carry the bag. With two bags, I wouldn't have had a spot for my cane. So anyway, she helped me, and she would have walked me in anyway because that's what sisters do. We wait in the full service line because I need to check my bags and get my boarding pass. And the lady at the counter was training someone else, and she kept talking to my sister, which was on the side. You know, I'm 54, my sister's older than me. Well, I'll be 54 in a couple weeks. And other than being blind, which was noted on my ticket as well, I'm fully capable of checking myself in, getting my bags done, getting my boarding pass, requesting assistance to get to the gate, that kind of thing. But for whatever reason, she kept talking to my sister. Does she, meaning me, have this and we need her that? And at one point, I was so frustrated. I said, I'm blind. I'm not deaf. I'm the one flying here, which to me says a clear indication, deal with me, not my sister. I'm here. I'm right here. I can take care of myself. When I need help, I request it, which is why I was at the full service counter, right? Because I need assistance. They should be very familiar with dealing with folks with disabilities of many types. And I'm know for a fact I'm not the only blind person to ever travel. So this woman in charge that was training someone else should have known. Now, to the trainee's credit, she recognized my frustration and immediately said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And she tried to acknowledge me, but the other lady kept talking over her, the one that was training her. So at the end of it all, even after that outburst from me, I continued to be ignored, never was acknowledged by that woman. And the lady, handed my boarding pass to my sister and said, "Here's her gate. Her baggage claim tickets are taped to the back." And, never, I immediately took it from my sister. And, I said, this is just horrible treatment. People need to be treated with dignity, and this was not dignity. And again, the lady that was being trained said, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This won't happen again." And I said, I'd like to think it won't happen again in the future. And we went off. I got on the plane, had a fine trip, no issues other than that counter issue. And I was going to let it go because I thought maybe I'm just being overly emotional. My mother had just died the week before. And my sisters and I had that trip planned for months, and it just happened to coincide with the death of my mother. So it was kind of kismet in a way, I suppose. But a couple days later, after I'd gotten home, I woke up, and not 5 minutes later, I was thinking about this experience again. And I told myself, partly out of guilt, because I'm not usually very rude, that if I hadn't said something, that trainee would have thought, "Oh, this is just how we this is how we deal with this situation. And that was unacceptable to me. So I reached out to the airline and I said, I don't want to complain. I don't want to get this woman in trouble. I don't want to reprimand her. Fired. I'm not into cancel culture. But you need to be aware. This is what happened to me. And they did take steps to compensate me for the issue, and they were very sympathetic to the situation, which I thoroughly appreciate. And it wasn't going to keep me from flying that airline again. My hometown airport was wonderful. So in any event, I really had to think about why people react the way they do when they see somebody with a long white cane or any disability that's visible. And I thought maybe people could benefit from knowing what to do when you see a blind person out in the wild on their own or even with assistance, but not being guided. I was not being, I'll make this important. I was not being guided by my sister. I was navigating my own way. I didn't have my hand on her shoulder or at her elbow, which is a sighted guide maneuver. I was clearly on my own. So I've had situations where I've been in a coffee shop and people want to help me. And I thought, people just don't know what to do. So I thought I'd give a little bit of an explanation of what to do when you see a blind person out in the wild with partial vision or not, and how to handle it with respect for that person. Because most of us want to help others, right? I mean, we want to be good people. And you don't want to just ignore what's obviously in front of you as far as you realize that someone has a disability. And so the first thing to do, ask, right? So ask somebody, hi, I noticed that you have a visual impairment. Do you need any help with anything? That goes a long, long way. Ask if they need help. And if they say, no, thank you, I've got this, or I appreciate you asking, but I'm good, then treat them just as you would anyone else. They're good. They don't need your help. 2, if a blind person comes up and asks for help, please help. But only with what they asked help for. So, hey, I'm looking for gate E3. Can you tell me which direction that is? Okay, so that's a question that a blind person might ask you. And so it's not good to respond with, oh, it's over there, or it's that way, because the person that can't see is not going to be able to see your indication of you pointing. So say in the direction that they're facing, it's to your left, or it's down to your right, or it's about 30 feet and then there's a right. Or, if you have time, would you like help getting to E3? I can walk you there. I mean, you don't have to commit your time. Or you could suggest there's a customer service counter that's not too far away. It's this certain direction, again, give directions, clear directions. And that's all good help. If I ask for help, then I certainly appreciate somebody giving help. Okay, 3, if you see somebody, I keep dropping my pen. Okay, if you see somebody with a long white cane and they're headed your way and they don't see you, especially if they're totally blind, please move. Okay? They're going to hit you with their cane otherwise. They don't mean to, but they don't know you're there. So if you're standing in, an area that's meant for people with disabilities, realize that seat is also for people that can't see. That's for people with disabilities. Don't park in the handicap parking spots. And in the state I live in, I don't get a handicap placard because I'm blind. Being blind is not being mobility impaired as far as not being able to walk a long distance. So don't worry, I won't park in disabled spots either next time I get a car, right? So these are the big things, though. And if somebody denies your help, please don't get upset with them. They appreciate you asking, even if they don't say so. I've politely declined help when offered, especially when crossing a street. I'll have cars honk at me from the corner. Let me explain how this works. When you're at a crosswalk, right, and there's traffic, and you need to go from point A to point B, and there's a light, if it's a hawk light, means that there's a beeping on the light. When it's green, it beeps at me, so I know it's safe to leave the curb. But I'm also, this is going to be a bad drawing. I'm also listening for cars. So if I hear a car that's idling in front of me, I know it's still. But if I hear a car that's moving, and maybe it's going to turn in front of me, this isn't the best case scenario, but I am listening for complete silence. So if you're honking at me, 1, I can't listen. 2, I'm not going to go on your say-so, because I don't know if you're even aware of the car that I hear coming up from behind you. I've had that happen. People have told me at shopping centers, oh, go ahead, it's okay. And all of a sudden, the car that was behind them is impatient because they've been sitting waiting on me to go in front of them and zips out from behind them at a parking lot. And I would have been hit. So it's a great thought to want to help, but realize we're trained in how to do this. And if we need assistance, we will ask. So please don't get angry or frustrated because you're trying to do a nice thing, and our sense of independence wants us to know that we can go out into the world on our own without having to ask people for help. And unless it's a super busy street, I'm pretty comfortable crossing the street by myself. I don't need my hand held. Now, that doesn't mean that I haven't been hit, but I was hit, but it wasn't my fault. The guy wasn't looking. And thankfully, he wasn't going very fast. He was making a turn, actually, just like this. And it was in the morning. The sun was reflecting off of a building on the other side of the street, so he had glare in his eyes, and he simply didn't see me crossing in his path that he was turning into. I had some pretty bad bruising, but I was able to walk up and leave, and didn't go to the hospital, and he was very grateful that I didn't press any kind of charges. The paramedics did come and check on me, but since I didn't hit my head, I felt pretty good. I was just late for work. Okay. Other things to do for people that are blind, things that you might see them do, just as a curiosity fact. If you're at the coffee shop and you see a blind person getting a coffee, they might actually, you might see them. Let's see if I can draw a hand here. Finger, 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 finger. Okay. So that's a hand. Poor hand, but it's a hand. I put my finger on the edge of the cup down towards where I know I want my coffee line to be. That way, when it gets full, the wetness touches my finger, and hey, I know to stop pouring my coffee. And also it helps me keep track of where my cup is. So I don't set it down on air. Obviously I'm going to feel for a table. I'm going to feel for what I need. I might ask for help in distinguishing sugar from sweet and low. That's not unreasonable. But if it's a coffee shop that I'm familiar with, then I'm going to know probably which one is which. Creamers, that's hit or miss. But basically, that's a trick that blind people use in order to pour drinks. Is they'll stick their finger on their cup. So now you know what that's all about. Their canes, blind person's cane. Okay, it's going to be long and white. Probably has some kind of roller tip on the end of it for easy mobility. And it's going to have a grip. Mine has like a golf club grip on it. And it's going to be, I don't think this is a white color, but you'll get the idea. It's going to be white. And usually in the US, it'll have red on it. Is that red? I don't know. But you get the idea. So in other countries, just a little known fact, the red actually distinguishes blind and deaf. That's not the case in the U.S. In the U.S., the red is just standard. The motion is like when your left foot comes out, you're tapping the ground with your cane. You'll sweep over and you'll tap the right. And ideally, it's or left or right first. It doesn't matter. But the idea is that cane is going to give you about 2 steps advantage. So if there's something in front of you, like a trash can, that cane will sweep forward, hit the trash can about 2 steps before I get to it. That gives me time to adjust and move. So if you are walking alongside a person with a cane, it actually, especially if you're going to be walking back the same direction, it actually benefits them to hit that cane, hit that trash can or object with their cane so they know it's there, especially on the way back. There is a little bit of muscle memory involved there. So you're going to say, I remember there was something coming up around when I heard this particular sound. We're by a cafe, or I smell pizza, and I know that we're going to be coming up on chairs and tables and things, and I want to be able to navigate my way through that safely. If you tell me to every obstacle, if you tell me don't go this way, don't go that way, because you're going to run into this or that, our cane is meant to find those objects. So let them go ahead and bump it. Bumping into kids or people, that's a different story. But do let them know about those. Or if it's something that the cane might not catch, if it's a gap in the sidewalk or something that they might trip on, a partition, like when you're in a parking lot and they have those parking pylons, right? Sometimes they stick out, sometimes they're sideways. Let them know those are coming up, and because those are tripping hazards. Trash can, probably not going to trip over a trash can. But it's not you don't have to tell them about every little thing. If you do need to get somebody out of the way because of an emergency situation, that is the only time it's acceptable to grab somebody by the arm. Because then we know, oh, this is important. And we will freeze immediately because we realize that you see something that we don't, and we need to stop where we are so that we don't walk into a hazard. That's very important. Don't just tug on us to get us out of the way of a trash can, because our nerves just go out the roof when we think that we've almost stepped into something that could be potentially bone breaking or worse. If somebody does ask if you can be their sighted guide and you're willing, so here's your arms, right? Okay, just for the sake of argument here, there's 2 ways. The blind person can put their hand on your shoulder, right? and guide that way. So you would be in front of the person and they will put their hand on your shoulder and they will follow you that way, probably still with their cane. The other is they're going to grab just above your elbow. Well, I can't show you my arm, but right about here, if you can see it, because where your elbow goes, your torso goes, and we'll follow you that way by grabbing onto your elbow and walking alongside you. If you're very tall, the elbow method is much more preferred. Shoulder height, I followed somebody who was quite tall as a sighted guide at the airport, actually, to get my bags when I landed, and she was quite tall. And at a certain point, I said, I need to switch positions. My arm's getting tired. You're quite tall. And she said, yes, I am. So that is just some quick tips that seemed obvious to me, but maybe aren't obvious to everyone. I often, even though I have some sight, I continue to wear my sunglasses out in public, even if I'm inside and I don't really need protection from the sun, because I have lazy eye. Yeah, those are terrible sunglasses. We're not going to keep those up. I have lazy eye, and it can be disturbing for children especially, because most people, like, here's a pair of eyes, right? Normal eye, my eye, right? So, and actually my eyes, I mean, I wish they were that straightforward. But yeah, I have an eye that drifts, a drifting eye, lazy eye, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't sit centered. And most portrayals of people in movies or TV shows that have lazy eyes, they aren't the best portrayals. They're usually bad people or people that aren't quite normal. Like, my examples that I can think of right off the top of my head are like, and I love this movie, Austin Powers. And, oh gosh, I can't even think of what was his name? The bad guy, the Dr. No kind of guy with the cat. And he had a mini-me. Well, anyway, one of the lines is a lazy-eyed psycho, it's just the stereotype. Oh, another one, throw mama from the train. And she was definitely not seen as somebody that was, normal. So just because there's a lazy eye doesn't mean that I don't see straight in front of me. I do. As it happens, even with my lazy eye, as opposed to a normal eye, okay, I see, let's go with a different color here. This eye, or one eye, I see right down the middle of, I see straight. This eye, instead of looking, what you would think would be this way, I am actually seeing straight, but I only look out of the very corner of my pupil to see. So I can only see out of a very little slice, but I see fully out of it. It's just my eye isn't pointed the same direction that I'm seeing. So the rude thing to do with that is to ask, are you looking at me? Or what are you looking at? Or is there something over my shoulder? It's just a rude question to ask. If at least one eye sees you, then you know they're looking at you. And even if both eyes are extropic, or even point inward, if they're paying attention to you, they're facing you, then you should know they can see you. You shouldn't have to ask, or look over your shoulder or try to look at what the lazy eye is looking at. We all have our unique traits, and blind people, especially those who don't have any sight, have no control over which way their eyes are facing. Your eyes face a certain direction because you have muscles in your eyes, and a person with a lazy eye, at least in my case, even though I've worn patches and done eye therapy and that kind of thing to try to strengthen that muscle, I've even had surgery to try to do so. It doesn't always work to fix it. So even after the surgery, my eye, was like, nope, you're still gonna have a lazy eye. There's nothing you can do about it. I'm gonna pull it right back. This muscle is so strong, there's no fixing me. So I wear sunglasses just to avoid that particular conflict. And I guess that's about it. I just wanted to give a quick list of things. Ask if they need help. If somebody does ask for help, do what you can to assist if you have time, or direct them where they can get that help. And if you see somebody with a cane coming your way, especially if, in the U.S., we walk going a certain direction on the right side, and the opposite direction, traffic coming toward you, is on the left. If you're walking this direction on the right side and you see somebody coming with a cane, listen for that tap, tap, tap. Although you'll only hear it occasionally, because remember, it's tap, sweep, tap. Some people just do a tap, sweep, sweep, tap, sweep, sweep. And you may never hear but one tap. So if you see that long white cane moving in front of somebody, please don't impede their progress. If you have a bag, move it as courtesy. But if you don't, no worries. The cane will find it and we'll walk around it. And I guess I didn't think about it, first off, because I don't have one. But number 4, and this goes for any service animal, don't pet a service dog. Don't distract it from the job it needs to do. If it's being pet by you or playing with you or your kids or whoever, that animal can't focus on the person that it's helping. When especially if they have a vest on, those animals know when they are in their vest that they're working. So don't pet a service animal. Don't pet a guide dog. At least don't do so without asking. And don't be offended if the person with the service animal says, I'm sorry, they're working. Now's not a good time to pet them. Please don't pet them. And it may even say on the vest, don't pet me. Service animal. Okay, so that's it. That's all I wanted to go over, and I hope you found this informative. I'm not trying to be patronizing. I'm just trying to give, if you will, a look into what to do if you encounter someone that's blind, and how to treat them. Bottom line, just treat us like regular people. The only impairment we have is that we can't see. So give clear directions. It's to your left or to your right, or it's towards the sound of, the cashier that's working over there, to your right. Pointing or saying it's over there or it's this way doesn't really do a whole lot for somebody who cannot clearly distinguish what direction you're pointing. So when in doubt, just use clear directions. Okay, that's it. Drop the pen there and get out of my Googles here, and I'll see you later. Bye.